Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the topic of dharma or soul path. What does this mean and how can you find out what yours is? That's coming up next. Stay tuned. And welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Wizard Factory video podcast, where you subscribe to weekly videos exploring deeper understanding of the universe and ourselves. My name is Logan Hart.
And I'm Brian Easterday.
If you're new and not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, like the video on your way in, and also find our podcast in audio form on all the major platforms. That link is below. Check that out. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. We're talking about finding your soul desire, especially kind of under the context of the destination and the path and how those two things relate to each other. It's kind of interesting, actually, that the last episode that we did was Give, Focus, and Wonder, and that's all about the present moment. Well, your soul desire is kind of incorporating that, but also the past and the future into it. It's like really a culmination of all of those things. You have to take action in the now, but you're working towards something that hasn't manifested yet, that is in the future, but it's up to you how you get there and if you get there. So keeping things simple, taking it right to the terms as we usually do here, we want to look at a few words such as dharma. This is kind of probably the biggest one. If you're familiar with this concept at all of the soul desire, that's probably the word that might come up first for you. Dharma, coming from the Vedic understanding of the path of your life, your reason for coming here, right?
Yeah, so that's something that, we've done a previous episode clarifying on what karma is, because karma and dharma, these are two concepts that, especially many here in the West kind of don't really fully understand. So if you haven't checked out that previous episode we did on karma, go check that out. But dharma, as Logan mentioned, it really is, it's your path, your purpose, the entire reason that you chose to incarnate, and it's like the ultimate goal of your experience would be a good way to look at that, or if there was a victory to be achieved, by walking this path, that is how you achieve that victory. So a very big concept that if you make that a foundational concept in your life, that really changes the way you go about things. You bring a purpose to it rather than just being kind of a victim of circumstance or anything. You can bring yourself into the now, like we talked about in that previous episode, and having that purpose, understanding that there's a larger goal behind it all. It gives you a very strong motivation. It gives you something that you're passionate about that you can tap into. So that's also very similar to in the Norse tradition, the concept of orlog, which is Origen's law. This is the law that you as a soul create for yourself. This is what I am going to achieve. To the point that it's a personal law for you. So that's if you're not achieving that purpose, you're kind of failing yourself. And this is, so when people talk about soul desire, these are very much this is the concept that we're trying to tap into here. It's the purpose, it's the desire that you as a soul have, what you want to learn in this incarnation, what you want to experience. And by experiencing that, that's what it brings your soul the most joy. Whatever it is, it just brings you a lot of passion. It could be anything from, playing music to creating things, being an artist or a painter, or helping other people, whatever it is. It's whatever it is that lights your soul up on fire with passion. That's your purpose, and that's a very strong thing to tap into. And I think a lot of the depression and the mental health issues that people experience in society really comes from them denying themselves their experience of going after that soul desire.
Yeah, that's a really great way to set that up. And it's interesting to note that there's kind of this dualistic aspect to the concept that we're talking about, this soul desire, in that it's the same for everyone, and yet how it's reached is different for everyone, if that makes sense. So much like everyone has all of the aspects of astrology within them, but their individual chart depicts that it's going to be stronger and weaker in different areas. It's like it's like our personal individual expression or path that we take to this common end goal that we all have, which is, reintegration, expansion, the raising up of awareness through the human experience, with the final goal of increased awareness and connection to the all. Essentially, it's like the intellectual, the knowledge, the fathoming of through consciousness, and also the emotional, actual feeling, the love, the connection to all things, the head and heart at play. How that plays out is different for each person. How they achieve that feeling of woad, how they achieve those amazing lessons that they'll get through whatever craft that they've chosen, or rather what maybe has chosen them. It's like what they call the pathway to mastery. Robert Greene talks about this. It's like mastery is kind of a different way of framing the goal, and then your path is up to you, one way or another, whether you chose it before you came here, if you want to look at it that way, or if you get to just pick what your path is in this life. Either way, the result is the same, and the way you're determining it is the same. It's like really observing what it is that first you have to try something new, because it may be out there, but if you've never done it, how are you going to know how it makes you feel when you do it?
Right.
And I don't know, quick little side note, maybe one way to measure it is that it's like, to find it, it's the thing you want to keep doing even though you suck horribly at it. Because to me, that's really, as a guitar teacher, and like seeing what causes a person to stick with something, because pretty much everybody's going to be bad at anything when they first start, but there's something that calls you back to do it again, even though being bad at it could be identified as a negative experience. But yet, in that failure of an attempt, there was still something so impactful and positive that came about that outweighed that negative experience, that brought you to say, you know what, that was rough, but for some reason I want to do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great. Cause that's something when you learn, we'll hit on this more later, but when you go after your soul desire, you definitely get tested. Like, failure is like, depending on the way you look at failure, but as far as like things maybe not turning out the way you expected as much, that's definitely going to be part of the process when you go after it. But, in regards to like orlog too, another interesting point is that it really is like it's like the ultimate expression of free will. Like, it's like what your soul really wants, like, and it has the right to like choose like what it wants to experience. And you 100% have the right to go after that. Like, and that is, selfish to an extent, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you understand what the universe is doing at a foundational level, that we've talked about, the all is wanting to experience itself, to learn. That's done through it fractalizing itself into individuals to have different experiences. The central point of that incarnation and the purpose of that experience is the soul desire. So by achieving that, you're achieving your purpose. So you are serving not only yourself, but all. When you do that, when people go after their soul desire, or they do their passion, other people get joy from it. Let's continue with the example of a musician, right? Imagine a musician like it's just their joy to play. Like, they would be doing it whether, no matter what it was. Like, they would just do it because they enjoy it. Just seeing someone who has like a wonderful talent just, play it, you'll see so many times, like, even if it's like someone on the street, people will just stop and they'll just listen it just captivates them. Like when you see someone just doing something that they're so good at and they're just so passionate at, like it captivates you. It inspires you to like want to go after what you want to do. Like, so by having like enough strength to go after what you want and sticking with that, like through the failure, like you were talking about, like, or even though you may suck at it at first, like you inspire other people to like be, you know, have enough courage to like really want to go do that themselves, you know, so you can serve yourself and others at the same time.
Right. And I think that's such a great point, because a key differential factor there is, you know, having a strong foundational knowledge of morality and understanding that your sole desire is not going to be like being a dictator of a country or something like that.
Right.
That make, you know, yeah. It's funny because that may make a really sick person feel good, but it's a very different form of joy. Like it's not that wound joy that you're going to get from really doing something that is just a beautiful gift that has the capacity to benefit someone else. That's really what it comes down to. It's your gifts. They're yours because you were born with them, but they're not yours because you have kind of a responsibility to give those to the world, whether it's something like music, which is, you know, can be used literally like a healing modality and a coping mechanism and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be some like you're a philanthropist in Africa or, you know, doing something like on that scale. It's just just sharing that little light that's yours in a way that is coming from that true heart-based intelligence. If you're operating from here, you're not going to be following your soul desire on a path that's exploiting people and in like crushing anyone that gets in your way. That whole like predator mindset, you know, that we talk about, it's coming from a different place, and so it would never show itself in that way. And like, you know, that's why I think it's important to mention that this doesn't have to be something you make your career out of, but at the same time, you should make your career out of something that is one of your true passions. In other words, it doesn't have to be like if you're just like, you just want to play guitar for your family or in your room or whatever. It doesn't have to be something that you're turning into money, in other words, but it can be. And it's way easier to make a living on things that actually make you feel joy just by doing them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, so a lot of people might be, you know, even confused or like not even know what their soul desire is. Like this is a question I kind of like to ask people sometimes. Like, you know, well, what is your soul desire? Like, what is it like that really lights you up that if you didn't have to do anything else, you would do? And many times they don't even know, because society has like indoctrinated everybody to such an extent that they don't even think they have that choice anymore. They're just like, oh, I'm stuck in these circumstances. I have to do this, you know, and then they just get stuck in this cycle. So there's a really useful exercise that I learned from a teacher of mine, you know, who we'll be having on the show here very soon as well. So, you know, keep an eye out for that interview. And it's an exercise to figure out like how to identify your soul desire. So if you don't know what it is, this will be useful. So what you're going to do is, you know, we're going to use the imagination here, the imagination, and you're going to go to like a fantasy world. In this world, the only rule is that you're supposed to be doing whatever it is that lights your soul on fire, that makes you passionate. Like if there was just anything that you could choose to do, no matter what it is, there's no limitations, there's no restrictions. Like if you could just choose it, what would that be? You don't have to worry about, oh, how would I pay these bills? How would my kids get taken care of? Like drop all that other regular shit. You're just tapping into like what really makes, you know, you light up as a person, and figure out what that is. And it doesn't have to even be limited to one thing. You know, there can be like a few things that just really make you happy. But figure out what that is or what those are. Okay. And then once you have that, now this is the tricky part. This is where you figure out how to take that and then start taking action on that in the real world. Okay. So how am I going to accomplish this? And depending on what it is that you have to do, there'll be different or that you want to do, there's different things that different steps you have to take to like want to achieve that. And it's not sometimes it's something that could be simple that, yeah, you could just go out and just start doing it. Other things might take a little bit more time because there's, certain steps that you have to accomplish first. And there's just no way around it. You have to put in that kind of hard Saturnian work.
Right. It may be something you've never even done before. So then obviously the first step would be to try that thing. So even if, you're trying the exercise and you're thinking, what could this thing be? It doesn't have to be something you've done before. What's something that's always kind of just stuck out to you? Like made you feel like, oh, I wonder what that's like. Or, there's something about it that attracts you to that. And then, like you said, Brian, it could be something as simple as, well, you could go to a pawn shop, pick up a $50 guitar, and boom, you're already taking steps to trying that thing.
Right.
Or if your vision is like, I want to be a professional speaker that speaks to 50,000 people, obviously it's going to take some time to actually create that experience for you. But then you would still think about that and then start to backwards, like reverse engineer from that moment to where you are now and what those next steps would be.
Exactly. Because you could immediately go and buy a book that helps you learn better communication skills of how to present yourself.
Right.
Start learning all these different things. Like you always can take action now immediately, and this is kind of where we get down to where like the soul desire it's both the destination and the path.
Yes.
It's like, because as you're living your soul desire, you're achieving it. You're walking that path. Like you're still in a forward momentum, but you're still enjoying it. It's this very, interesting thing where it's both. It's a wonderful thing to tap into. So, let us know in the comments too. Like, what is it that like lights your soul up? Like if there was anything that you could do, like if all you had to worry about was doing like what you as a human being wanted to do, whether it travel to other countries, start a business, whatever it is, like let us know in the comments. Like we want to know like what it is that lights your guys' soul.
And if you don't know what that is, what was the result of your trying that exercise that Brian just gave you? Like what was it that popped out in your head? And then let's have a conversation in the comments. So what would be the first steps to actually moving towards that? And then we can all pitch in and suggestions there perhaps. But I love this bigger overarching concept of the destination and the path. It's because it's really easy to get kind of overly caught up on one thing or the other. The natural tendency I think is more just like focus on the end goal, like that masculine linear laser focus, like let's just get there. And then like maybe more in the kind of the new age spiritual communities, it's more, it's not about the destination, it's just about the path, where they're still kind of just arguing the other half truth that is still, missing its other component. It's both. And what that really means is have a clear vision and focus on that destination, which in this case is an experience of sort. You know what I mean? It like speaking on that stage isn't so much about doing that thing. It's how it makes you feel when you get to finally do that thing, especially the more, work you had to put in to get that, it's going to feel even better when you do. But so having that clear vision and taking conscious and consistent action towards that is it must be done. But at the same time, it's not only about enjoying the process and the feelings that come with the doing of that, even the grinding, difficult, challenging moments, but then also think about who you had to become in order to achieve that result. That's the journey too. And that's it. Then you could really start to argue which is more valuable, the person you became or the byproduct of the person you became, which is enjoying the benefits of that. They're both amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's such a wonderful thing when you start going after like what you want. Cause and you could add on your experience of this as well. But like for me, when I really started going after what I wanted to do, I experienced both like a lot of very, very tough challenges that for me were like bringing up programs or habits or behaviors that were holding me back from becoming that person I needed to be. So they had to get brought up to my awareness somehow so I could work with them.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's been like the best time of my life. Like the most challenging and the best time at the same time. Like I've had so much fun doing it, like in regards to like, coming out as like a teacher, like developing myself as an astrologer, like that is my passion. It's like the occult and like what I do right here. Like this is my passion. This is my soul desire. And I absolutely love doing it. So there was some very tough, extremely challenging. You remember, Logan, very challenging choices that I had to make in order to kind of get the space and time that I needed in order to put that kind of study and that work and to get things going. And it has not been easy at all, but it's been so much fun at the same time. Like I've learned so much. I've refined myself as a person, like, and continue to do so. It really is a very kind of this very interesting thing. Like whenever you go out of it, there's both like all this challenge, but also at the same time, just like all this reward. And it's not just either or, it's like both happening at the same time. Like you'll be going through a challenge, but then you'll be learning something from that challenge. Like, and they're all happening at the same time. It's a very kind of interesting place to be, especially when you really, really first get going after it,
Yeah, they really, the challenge and the reward really are playing off and lending way to the other. It's like you can't have one without the other. In fact, I mean, I think it's really important to state here that when you're thinking about that soul desire and you're imagining yourself and however long you think it's, your logical brain thinks it's going to take to get you there, and it's probably some big grandiose, like all these people love you, you got all this money in the bank, and whatever it is that does it for you, you're imagining all this great reward. But that childish brain that hasn't learned it still has that instant gratification entitlement mentality. We want the rewards without doing the work. That just isn't how shit works here. It never fucking will. This is natural law for sure. Immutable, cannot be changed. It's kind of like the law of Gabo is one way you could look at that, of like you to get that experience of that reality. Those things, especially if done from an aligned, heart-centered place, are a byproduct of a life of service. Let that sink in for just a second there. It's only a byproduct of a life of service, because obviously I don't think you're sitting there thinking, oh, screw that, I'm just going to cutthroat my way to the top. Yes, that's a way to have success, but the cost is never worth it. That's where karma comes in. Revisit that episode. Even these ones that are in power and the universe isn't smiting them down and stuff, they have their own problems. They're looking like Smeagol and shit. You know what I mean? Like that, it takes its own toll in a different kind of way.
Yeah, it's a very Saturnian lesson where you just got to have to work hard for it. And this is the thing about soul desire. You can't pray for it. You have to sacrifice for it. Like that's how the universe works. You're not going to just sit there on your bed and like pray your soul desire to come in. Like nobody else is going to do it for you. You're going to have to sacrifice and work and go after that. And you're going to have to like face all your fears and your traumas and like all the little programs of society that have like cut you off from who you really are. And that's a very transformative process. It's a very chaotic process many times, that there's both while your life will be falling apart, like your old life will be falling apart, at the same time, everything new will be falling into place. So there's both chaos and order there to observe. It's a very wonderful thing to experience, in regards to like your soul desire. Like if it's something that, you can't necessarily, you can't achieve like the end goal, like right there. It's something that, you have to, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I wanted to become an astrologer. Vedic astrology is not something that you learn in a night. It's something that takes years of study and practice and a lot of hard work and hours of time and dedication and so much. So that but what I could do is I could immediately recognize that okay, this is where I want to be. it's formulating a map, formulating a plan. Okay, these are the steps that I'm going to take to get there. So the first step is, okay, I want to find a course that I want to take so I can get certified. Then it's like, okay, I need this much money for that course. It's getting that money, and then, it's paying for it, and then it's taking the course. It's all these little steps that you're just taking. You're constantly, like, you're going after your soul desire instantly, but you're still taking like the time to just, have that map and that plan of how to go after it. So whatever it is, that you have, like, once you figure out what that is, that's the next step, is to kind of develop your map of like, okay, how am I going to go about achieving this? And then figure out, even if it's something like small that like you're doing every single day, take some kind of action towards that every single day, and then, before you know it, years will have gone by and you'll be seeing the results of that. Like, it may seem like such an impossible goal at first too. When you first start, it just may seem very daunting and be like, man, I don't know if I can do that, or, oh, that really terrifies me. Good. It's supposed to. That's how you're on the right track. It's supposed to terrify the shit out of you. It's supposed to be very hard and very challenging, because like that's why it's so rewarding. So when you do that, you just have to just keep taking that action towards it, and like before you know it, like you'll be farther along than what you thought you would be.
A good buddy of mine taught me that the reason you're afraid is because you believe that you can actually do it. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, if you were on the Empire State Building and you're looking through like thick pane glass or grating or something like that, and you're looking down, you might feel a little rush, but you're not like scared, because you're not about to jump, right? But if you're just on top of a one-story building and you're looking down and you think about jumping, that's when you start actually feeling it, because you can actually do it. That's what's terrifying you about taking action on your soul desire, is because, oh shit, I could really do that. Oh, I could actually be really powerful. I could actually have a lot of influence. I could actually have impact. That's scary sometimes, especially if you're not used to that. That's power that should be wielded responsibly. But again, it comes back to what I just said. In a different way of saying that, you can't expect your outer world to change and give you all those benefits if you're not changing the person who you are. That's only a reflection of that. You don't deserve that yet. You haven't become that person yet. So it's like, that's why it's the destination and the path, because just by taking that first little action, buying the pawn shop guitar, getting a little course on astrology or whatever, you've already reached the destination in a way, because you've begun the journey. You've actually set foot on that path. But if you only stopped there, you would still fail, because the point isn't to just dip your toe in the water and be like, okay, I did the thing. Like, can I go to heaven now? Like,
right.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that, I know I say it all the time, but my favorite quote, that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's such a useful, sorry, my neighbor's dog barking. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Every single step matters, and like, you're not going to get there instantly all the time, but like you're not going to get there unless you take a step. It's a very interesting thing to observe. And, as you're talking about, like, you have to go through, actually have those experiences like there to actually start to feel that, and like we're more afraid of our success than we are our failure sometimes, because failure is a little bit more comfortable, because then we can fall back into that victimhood mentality. Whereas like if you're staying after your soul desire, like, you can't be in a victimhood mentality. You have to have a warrior mindset of like, this is what my soul wants and nobody's going to fucking stop me. Like, I'm achieving this no matter what challenge it comes up. But you have to go through your karmas so you can achieve your dharmas, right? Like, your karmas come to you as those experiences, those lessons, and those help shape and mold you into the person that allows you to really start to walk your dharma, in a healthy way, to stay in alignment with that. So it's, the dharma's the path, and like the karmas, like, those are the experiences that are bringing the lessons on the way with that. But you can't have one without the other. And again, if you're not familiar with the concept of karma, go back and watch that episode we did on it, because we really clarified what it is, because a lot of people have many misconceptions on what karma is, as well as dharma. And that's why we're getting into these more in depth here.
Yes, that's definitely a highly recommended episode, not too far back, but in case too this may be helpful to you, we now have the laying the foundations playlist, where we're putting all those really like foundational essential knowledge episodes on that playlist for people that are new to the channel and want a more concise way to kind of like get to that knowledge. But
right.
Speaking of karma, that's actually a really good way to segue into this next point, because what will happen if you ignore your soul desire? Best believe there's some karma coming with that. The longer that you put that off, ignore it, put the blinders up, and keep doing the thing, running the hamster wheel that we're conditioned from birth to do, the universe is going to send you something to put you on your ass. Yeah. Something that's going to set you back and put you in a situation where you have, even if you're in the hospital bed and sitting there think like, why the fuck did this happen? That's always when we question why, right? When bad stuff happens, not when everything's peachy. Yeah. It's when shit goes south and you're just like, oh, how did this happen? But you have to be willing to always hold up that mirror and ask yourself, have the fucking balls to ask yourself, was it me? Like, is it something that I did? Could I learn from this and do something better? Am I ignoring my soul?
Yeah, it's that very Saturnian lesson, and that's how Saturn works. And Saturn, it's the planet, that is the bringer of karma, but he's also very, he's dharma as well, because he's that path, he's that discipline, so he's the one that brings the pressure of this here, and it's that hard work that you have to work for a long time for, but when you have that reward, like it's a lasting reward, it's worth it, and interestingly enough, Saturn returns, and in astrology, looking at people's charts, there's something known as a Saturn return. And this is where Saturn, and you have your birth chart, and then Saturn is in a certain position in your birth chart. Going through your life, the planets, they keep transitioning. And whenever Saturn transits over the same position it was in your birth chart, this is known as your Saturn return. This usually happens between 27 and, 30, 31, at the latest. But what happens here is you'll notice in this age, and go back and look at your own life. And if this is something that, you resonate with, comment below and let us know your experience. But between that age of 27 and 30, people a lot of times will feel a pressure that they'll kind of be torn between two choices, which is conforming with like what society wants and kind of like what their parents did and just kind of continuing the cycle, or going after what they really wanted to do, which is like tapping into their soul desire. This is the age like where Saturn brings that. It's like, okay, you're an adult now. Here's your purpose. Are you going to do it? And if you choose not to, you'll notice those people take that same path. They'll continue to feel that pressure of Saturn, of working at that job they really fucking hate, of staying in that relationship that feels terrible, and those are lessons. They're valuable lessons. They're just not that pleasant, but the people that choose to kind of get on that path and go after their soul desire, like it, you'll still feel the pressure of Saturn because you still have to go through that process. But there's a big difference between working with it and fighting against it. Massive difference. Like, and even in my personal experience, like literally as soon as I started my Saturn return, I felt like this intense pressure to become a Vedic astrologer. And I had never really been interested in astrology before that at all. I had kind of doubted it and everything. And then I actually felt this pressure to research into it. And like my mind was just blown. And I was like, so when you like feel that pressure, follow it. If there's whatever it is, like there may be like an initial desire that like you start on that path and then you discover something along the way that you didn't even know you were that passionate about. But unless you had started that path, you wouldn't have really discovered that. It is this process, but you just have to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of tying this all together in conclusion, where does this process really end? that's a good question. Like maybe it's something that you take action on and you let it carry you as far as it's going to take you, and you reap all the benefits of that, that growth and that new experience and expansion. And then you've satisfied your desire for that. There's like sometimes you really want ice cream, you can't think of anything else, then you go and eat the ice cream and you're like, that was awesome. What's next? Like something different, like you scratch the itch. Or it may be something that literally just carries you throughout your entire life. Like it's the little sailboat that takes you all the way to the end. And there's probably going to be combinations. There'll be things you pick up here and there along the way. But again, for me, music has been my number one, my constant all through my life. And I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. It's just something that I love on such a deep level. I get so many benefits from it that I just can't even imagine my life without doing that. Why would I ever quit? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that's just one way to look at that.
For those who don't know and haven't seen, Logan is an extremely talented musician on like multiple instruments, like very good at singing and everything. So go to his like page or like Heartfire Visions and stuff.
Check out my Heartfire Visions
like
YouTube channel. I'll put the link below if anyone's interested in checking that out.
Yeah,
thanks,
very talented musician. Like it's a joy to watch you play. That's like that point that we were getting back to, earlier, when people are fulfilling that soul desire. Like it inspires others. They get joy from seeing you fulfill your joy. It's a very beautiful process.
Right, and that's what inspiration is really all about. It's why we chose to incorporate, empower, inspire, encourage. It's a crucial component of sharing through example. We want to empower you with an empowering perspective, mindset, knowledge, but we want to inspire you. That's not up here. That's in here to do to go after what you want, just by leading through example.
Right. Yeah. And as Logan was saying, this is like the purpose of like why we have reincarnation, is you fulfill a soul desire. And if you don't fulfill it, then you can come and do that. But once it's fulfilled, you go experience something else. Like there's not just one beautiful thing to experience in all of this. There's an infinite amount of things. There's always more to experience. So just figure out what it is and achieve that and achieve it. And if you ever get to a point that you feel like you're stagnant and I've experienced this enough and I want to go after something new, do that too. The lessons, they never stop. Like that's the real key there. But yeah, so that's going to kind of wrap up this episode. But if you enjoyed this, let us know in the comments, and everything, and be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you have not done so, we have more free content available. If you just go to thewizardfactory.com and get our free initiation package, all you got to do is enter your email and you'll get the link. It'll email to you, which includes the toolbox kit. Yep, and the link's below too. There we go. So it's nice and easy. There's no reason you shouldn't get it. It's free and it's convenient. It includes the Toolbox series, which is some basic foundational tools that really help you start to incorporate a daily practice of spending time with yourself, different breathing techniques, meditation, and stuff that is useful for self-development. And another very helpful tool is access to our Inner Sanctum group on Facebook, which is where we're really cultivating personal interaction with everybody. So if you're wanting more personal interaction with us, you want to ask us questions, that's where you're going to get a hold of us at.
And each other.
It's free and each other, connect with each other. We're wanting to build the tribe here. It is a community. So find other like-minded people. If you guys are all watching this episode, there's probably some things that some common interests you have. So go connect with those other people too.
And one last little point that I want to add in here too is that we're moving forward with the launch of our Patreon page, which is a platform that you can get access to more specific niche content, more valuable stuff that is tailored towards our most beloved fans that really appreciate what we're doing and what we're about. This is a place where we can serve you better. It keeps it affordable for you, but that contribution helps us keep doing what we do. It helps us keep serving you better and in better ways. So the first two tiers are going to be are unlocked with our brand new Patreon page. and there's a third tier coming that we're going to kind of roll out as we're getting more momentum with the Patreon, seeing how many people are actually wanting this content. And so that link is below as well if you want to help support us while also getting exclusive content you can't get anywhere else that's made just for you. Recommend checking that out. That link's right below there, and we'll see you in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very, very exciting with the Patreon. We have some very interesting things coming out on that. A lot of value for very affordable. So, yeah, again, hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to, like and subscribe, comment below, let us know what you thought of it. And until next time, be empowered, be inspired, and be encouraged.